Hello, all, and welcome to our class in Photoshop today. Today, we're going to get down to creating an actual picture image, a drawing of a bird, and we're going to use polygons, and we're going to use shapes with curves, and we're going to use the combination shapes of curves and polygons to create this image that you'll have for your first real assignment. So we're going to start by creating a new file, and I'm going to share my screen, and we'll create a new file. Okay, there's the Photoshop screen, and we're going to go to File, New File, and we're going to make an 8.5 by 11-inch image. Okay, we want it to be, we could click on this preset. Okay, there's a lot of presets here from Recents. That's the one we're on. These have been used recently. But there's also saved photo, print, art and illustration, web, mobile, film, and video. Ours is going to be for print. So we're going to click on that and it will give you presets for print. Okay. Letter, legal, tabloid, and A4, all different paper sizes. Okay. So we're going to be using letter or 8.5 by 11, as you can see over here. Our increments are going to be set to inches, and the orientation of the page is going to be portrait or vertical. Okay, horizontal would be called landscape. Our resolution we want set to 300 pixels per inch. Our color mode, since it's going to be for print, will go to CMYK color. So you want to go to the pull down menu and click on CMYK, and we'll explain that at another time. The background contents, I like to have a white background because it makes it easy to see and it represents the white paper that we would be printing on. And the color profile, you can just leave at working CMYK, and we want our pixels to be square. So we'll hit create. Okay, and by the way, that whole process would make a very good five-step card. I would recommend creating five-step cards for every procedure along the way that you will be utilizing in future projects, whether it be in class or when you get uh, leave this class and get out into the actual real world of using Photoshop. Okay. So the image that we're going to use was an image that I had put in Canvas, and you need to download that. It's a template, and I have it on my desktop. So I'm going to bring that in and place it into my document, and we're going to be using that as a template. When doing a drawing in Photoshop, it's very important to use a template for the most part because it acts as kind of a sketch. You wouldn't just jump in and do a drawing. You would do a sketch first and refine it. And we're using Photoshop as the finishing tool. Okay. So we're basically we have our drawing completed as an analog drawing, and we scan it in or take a picture of it and make a JPEG, and then we can bring it into Photoshop to use as a template. So there's two different ways we can bring it in. I'm going to pull the screen over a little bit. You can't see my background screen, but uh, on my desktop, I have a file, and it's called Poly and Curved Bird. It's called Poly and Curve Bird Drawing Template JPEG. Now, if I take that and click onto that template, I can literally pull it right into my file and drag and drop it, and it will show up on my screen. Okay. Um, I would then, you'll see that it has boxes, a box around it, and the box has handles on the box, we can select any one of those handles and hold the Option key, and it will reduce it in size to fit onto the page by simply moving one of those handles in. Holding Shift makes it shrink from the center of the drawing, and we can put it into place. And then you'll see it has a box with an X over it. That means it's a representation of the template file. It's not really in the document at this point. Um, it comes from an old uh, standard layout format where copywriters would lay out pages, and where a picture was going to go, they would put a box with an X in it. The same thing pertains to this image, only we could see the image here. They would simply write what was on the photo, or if the photo had a number, they would write the number into the box so that the person doing the paste up in the production room would know which photo they were talking about. Okay. In our case, we can see our photo or our template, and it's of a bird sitting on a limb. Okay. It does have the box with the X on, so it is not in the file yet. But once we click this little check mark up in the top of the interface, you'll see that the box and the X go away. And now we have an actual image that we can use as our template, and it's part of our file. Okay. So that's the first way that you could use to bring in a template. There are other ways, and I showed you the drag and drop. I'm going to delete that template, and I'm going to bring in the template by going to File pull down menu and come down to Place Embedded. And when that opens up, which will take a second, we can go out to our desktop, and there's our file, Poly and Curve Bird Drawing Template. Click on that, click Place, and then that will do the same thing. It will put the file into position, and if we hold the Alt key and grab one of the handles and pull inward, we can reduce the size of it to fit onto our document. Okay. We'll also click the check mark to set it, and now that is on a layer in our file. Okay. And speaking of layers, we know that we need to have two things open at all times when working in Photoshop. And one of them is layers, and the other is paths when we're working to either create a drawing, an illustration, or even a photo illustration. Okay. So under Window, we can come down to Layers and open up our layers, and you'll see that paths were actually attached to layers. They were nested together. So they both opened at the same time. Had paths not been nested to layers, we could go into Window and come down to Paths and open it there. But it's very important that we have our paths open and that we have our layers open. Okay, let's take a look at our layers. There are two in there already. Okay, and they are the background, and that's locked. And there is a layer here, which is our poly and curve bird drawing template. Okay, you'll see there's a little icon here. That icon means that it's a smart object, and we'll talk about smart objects at another time. For right now, I just want you to know that that's what that icon means. And in order to work on our template, which we're not going to do anything to the template. We're going to draw over the top of it. We can just leave that alone at this point, and we can also lock that into place by clicking on the layer and highlighting it, and then clicking on the lock, and now you'll see the little lock behind the name, and that means that we can do anything to this. We can try to grab it. We can do anything we want, but you can't actually get to it because it's locked, and that's what we want. We don't want it to move once we start doing our drawings. Also, you'll notice that there are that there were. I just put them away. There was a ruler at the top of the interface and one down the left side. We want those to be open. We're not going to use them for measurement in this particular case, but we'd like, it's always good to have those open, and they're under the pull down menu view, and you come down to rulers, and you'll see that there's a ruler across the very top, and it's in inches, and a ruler down the side that's in inches. Because if you remember, we made our increments inches. Okay, they'll come into play in a little bit, but not right away. Okay, so we have our two layers, and as we know um, from doing exercises, every shape has its own layer. And if it's created with the pen tool, it will have its own path. It will not have a path if it's created by a shape marquee. Okay, that we will get the marching ants to be able to do the artwork um, with, but it will not give you a path. All right, for editing, but there's a way to get around editing if we need to do so. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to use the magnifying glass to zoom in on our template a little bit so we can see a little bit better to do our work. Okay, always better to work bigger so you can see and be more accurate. You don't want to struggle when creating these shapes that we're going to be creating. Let's take a look at what we have. We have some polygons. There's a triangle right here, or it's actually a multi um, shape. It's both curves and straight edge. Okay, but it still makes a sort of a triangle shape. Okay, we have a circle for the eye, for the dark part of the eye. We have a circle for the light part of the eye. We have some curved shapes here that are in gray. We have curved and straight shapes to create the wings. This is mainly curved. And we have curved shapes to create the belly of the bird. A very organic shape here to do the foot. And then we're back to straight lines, almost a polygon, to create the piece of branch that the bird is sitting on. So we want to always examine what we have before we get started because we want to know what the best tools are for creating the shapes that we're going to create. Okay. Always like to start with the more polygonal shapes, like the beak and the piece of the twig that the bird is sitting on. So let's start with those, and then we'll do the curved shapes second. All right. So we're going to work on the beak of the bird. So we're going to zoom in here and get a good view of that beak. We're going to move our paths over here. We're going to make sure we have our tools that we need. The tools that we're primarily going to be using in this exercise or in this drawing are the tools that you'll use most of the time for drawing in Photoshop for the rest of the semester. Okay, we're going to use the marquee tools, which you'll see here. We have the rectangular marquee, and if we right click on that, you'll see that nested under that are a circle or elliptical marquee and a single row marquee horizontal and a single row marquee vertical. Okay. Those are the four tools under the marquee tools. We're going to be using the elliptical at some point, so I'm going to go to that and bring that out on top. Okay. To start, though, we're going to make the shape of the bill of our bird here, and you can see that the drawing is broken down into very basic shapes, which is a great way to draw anything, but it works great when using Photoshop. Okay. The tool that we're going to be using is the pen tool. It's this one right here. And if you roll over that, it will give you a demonstration of how the pen tool works on this video if you play it. The pen tool, as you know, makes uh, um, vector-like images They're not vector because they're not really creating an image, you're creating a path, but you're plotting points and making making shapes with the pen tool to create a path. And our paths will all show up over here in our paths layer, as we know. Okay. So first things first, let's look at the bill. Okay. And it's got a dark shape on the top and a light shape on the bottom. Uh, let's start with the shape that's up top, and we're going to create this shape right here. I always like to start at a corner point. So I'm going to go to this corner point at the very top of the bill, and I'm going to click and release the mouse, and you'll see that we now have something under paths called the work path. We're going to double click on that and we're going to name it uh, beak top. Okay, because that's what it is. It's the top of the beak of the bird. Okay, and we're going to need a place for that artwork to live. Okay, you create the artwork by creating paths. The artwork then lives in a layer. Okay, so we're going to create a new layer. We can click on the little icon. I call it the hamburger menu because it's three lines at the top of the layers list. Okay. And it looks like a hamburger stacked up. So I'll be referring to that as the hamburger menu. If you click on to that and come over to new layer, it will make a box for new layer, and we will call it the same thing that we call the path that we're using to create this piece of art. We'll call it beak top. And now we have a matching set. We have a path that's called beak top. Okay. And we have a layer called beak top. That's important so that if you have to go in and edit anything in the drawing, you'll be able to find it rather easily because you would edit it in the path more so than in the layer. Okay, so we have our first point there. We clicked and release. We can come down here to the end of the beak and click and release again, and you'll see it makes a line segment. Okay, and then we're going to hold down the Option key, and this is important. Uh, when creating shapes with curves and straight lines, or even just shapes with all curves. Very important to Option click and roll over the last point that you made in the line segment uh, and roll on to the end point because that end point should not become the starting point for the next line segment. Okay. We want to put another point right over the top of that point, and you'll know you're right over the top when you see a little caret behind the pen tool. Okay. So we'll hold down the Option key, we'll click and release, and then we'll let go of the Option key, and then we'll come up to make our endpoint on our next line segment. And this is going to be a curve. So remember, we're going to click, hold, and drag here. We're going to click the mouse down and hold it down. And then we're going to drag to the right and down just a little bit. Okay, or I'm sorry, we're going to click up and to the right just a little bit to put our line segment right on top of that line on the template. Okay. Then again, we'll Option click on top of there, and there's two handles here. Remember, we only want to have one handle when making our shapes. Okay, one handle per point. So we're going to hold down the Option key and click right on top of that point again, that end point, and watch what happens to one of the handles. Boom, it's gone. Okay, so now this handle will control this arc over here, and it allows us to close up our shape by clicking on top of the starting point that we had to start the drawing. And you'll see that when you click on top of that or roll on top of it, and you're directly on top of it, you'll get a little circle behind the pen tool. And you just simply click, and that path is closed. And you want to make sure your path is closed. And now you can make um, your the beak of of your bird. Okay, let's make it orange. Okay, so we'll now make we'll make this path active, okay? Because this isn't artwork. There's still nothing in our layer, okay? But we're going to make this path active by going over to paths to its hamburger menu, clicking and coming down to make selection and releasing, and it will bring up something called the make selection box. And there's a box here for feather radius. We want that to be 0. Once we get into using photos, I'll explain feather radius a little bit further, but we want it to be 0 right now. And then we'll click OK. And you'll notice that when we click OK, we get marching ants. The marching ants actually do all the work. You can't do anything without having marching ants. And they're called marching ants because they look like ants marching out of the anthill to go to do work. Thus, the idea that you can't do work without the marching ants. Okay, um, you'll see that the top beak layer is selected or highlighted. We have our marching ants. Now we can go to edit and come down to fill. And this is a good 5-step card, how to do a fill and stroke on a shape. Okay. Make your path, make the path active by getting the marching ants. Make sure you have a layer to put the artwork on. Go to edit, and we want to fill that shape. We want to put a fill on it and a stroke, but we want to put a fill on it. Always do the fill first. We'll click on fill, and it will bring up the fill box. And under fill box, you have foreground color, background color, and color, content aware, pattern, and history. Don't worry about those 3 for right now. Black, 50% gray, and white. We know what these are. What are these up here? Okay. Your foreground color is currently black. It's over here. It's the box in the toolbox. That is the one that's in the front, thus the foreground color. The background color is also black at this point, as you can see. So foreground and background color are both black. I'm sure we don't want the bird's bill to be black. We want it to be orange. So we would click on color, and that's going to open up the color picker. Okay. So in the color picker, there's a slider on this bar, and we would slide down to where the oranges are. We want to make our bird's beak orange. Okay. So we'll go to where the oranges are and then click on the orange that we want. And you can still make adjustments. You can make it bright orange. Okay. I like this kind of muted orange for the top of the bird's beak. Okay. So what we're going to do, we'll say that that's good. This is the spot. If we were to go over here, it would make it a lighter color. Down here, it would make it darker and so on. But this is the color we want. So we're going to click right around this area here. And it's arbitrary. It's all about what color you choose. Okay. Then we'll click OK, and that will tell it what color to use, but it doesn't fill in the color yet until you click color over here again and click OK, and then it puts in the orange beak on the top of the bird, and that is in the beak top layer. Okay, so we could also put a stroke on there by saying edit stroke, and the stroke is usually a 1-point stroke. Okay, which there are 6 pixels in a point, so we need to put 6 in the width of the stroke. The color, we're going to put a black outline around all the shapes that we're using in this bird for this drawing. Probably not artistically the best, but practice-wise for what we're looking to do, repetition will be paramount in learning how to create drawings. Okay, so we're going to put a fill and a stroke on each shape that we make. Okay, so a 6-pixel width on the stroke. The color's black. That's good. We'll click OK, and it puts that stroke right on there. And you can see that you still have the marching ants. The image is in the beak top. Okay, to release those marching ants, you can go to select, deselect in the pull down menu, or you can use the shortcut Command D, and it will let the marching ants go. And you can see that we have our first shape in there. Okay, so the next shape we're going to work on is the uh, the bottom of the beak. Okay, so you can see that we can turn on and off our layers over here by clicking on the eyeball that's in front of the layer. You're not getting rid of the layer, you're just literally turning it off so that it can't be seen. Okay, I'm going to leave it on for now and create the bottom part of this beak. So, how do we do that? Same way we did the top part of the beak. We're going to use the pen tool. Okay. And oh, by the way, I'm going to lock my beak top so that I don't grab a hold of it while working on the rest of the drawing. Okay. So now it's locked in place. Um, so now I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to go back up to the tip of that beak. And I'm going to zoom in with my zoom tool so that I can see really well. To do this, I have my layers out. I can see those. I have my paths out. I can see those. Okay. And I'm going to grab my pen tool and I'm going to start on the tip of the beak again. And I'm going to come straight down to the end of the beak, bottom of the beak, which is right here. Okay. And then I'm going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to click on that, roll over that endpoint to create my new starting point. Remember, we don't want the endpoint to be the starting point. We're going to put a new point over the top. So we'll roll over the top. You get a caret. You hold down the Option key, click and release, come down to where the bottom of the beak is, and it's a little bit of a curve. Okay, so we're going to curve it into place by clicking, holding, and dragging on the mouse. Okay. And we'll release that. Then we'll hold the Option key again, click on top of the endpoint to create a new starting point to get rid of one of those handles. And then we'll close the shape. And again, remember when you close the shape, you get a little circle behind the pen tool. So we just need to roll over that, get that little circle, click and release. And now we have another path, and it's called work path. And we want to name it. We're going to double click on that and we're going to call it beak bottom. Okay. And what do we need? We need a place for that beak bottom to live. That'll be over in the layers list. So we'll click on the hamburger menu, go to new layer, and call it beak bottom. Exact same thing that we named the path. So we know if we have to edit this, we can use that path to do that. We'll click OK. Okay. Now that we have this highlighted, we can go over to our path, beak bottom, go to the hamburger menu, click on it, come down to make selection to get our marching ants. Again, remember the feather radius should be 0. Click OK. And now we have marching ants that will allow us to fill and stroke the bottom part of the beak. Okay. I'm going to make the bottom part of the beak like a more subdued version of the upper color, okay, of the upper orange. So we can go to edit, fill, and again we'll click on color and it opens up our color picker. There's the color we picked for the top of the beak because we didn't change that at all. So we'll move that circle down this way a little bit and make up to the left a little bit to give it a little brighter color because it's a lighter color on the bottom of the beak according to the template. And we'll move that into place and click OK. And then click OK on the color fill box. And it fills it in with the correct color that we chose. Now, let's say we don't like that color. Okay, easy enough. You just go to edit, fill. While you still have the marching ants, go to color again, double click on color, and we can lighten that up even a little bit more by clicking there and then clicking OK, and that changes the color of the uh, the bottom of the beak. We made it a little bit lighter. Okay, Uh, as far as the stroke goes, we'll go edit, stroke. It'll call up the stroke box. It's still at 6 pixels and it's still black. And it will always be the foreground color of your um, in your box over here. Okay. So these colors, let's say if I was to make this red, no, I'm going to cancel that. If you wanted to make this red, you could click on there, find a red that you like, click OK, and it would um, put a red stroke on there. Okay. But we don't want that. So we'll go to edit, undo stroke, and we'll put that black stroke on. Edit, stroke. And again, remember we're in beak bottom layer over here. We can click on here and we can get our black color. Select the black color here. It's all zeros at the bottom if you're looking at the hex code. And click OK. And click OK. And there we have the bottom of the beak, slightly lighter in color. And we have our marching ants. To release the marching ants, again, select, deselect will work. And there we have our bottom beak. We can turn these on and off to take a look at what we have as far as our drawing goes. Okay. We have our paths to match over here. Okay. Path for beak top layer, path for beak bottom layer, and we can lock that into place as well. There we go. Now we can't move it. We can't do anything to it. We can't destroy it. Okay. So the next shape that we have, um, let's stick with the polygons for now. Okay. Or the most polygonal looking shapes. And we'll put in this branch that the bird is sitting on. Okay. So we'll go to our pen tool. We'll click on an endpoint, click and release, go to the endpoint up at the other end, click and release. And then we have a straight line here, a perfectly straight line. If we hold shift, it'll constrain the line so that it can only be a straight line. We can click and release, and then option click, and then click and release here. Now notice I didn't hold shift. It's because holding shift is only good for making verticals, uh, complete perfect verticals, complete perfect horizontals, or lines on a 45-degree angle, which this is not. So this you have to eyeball in. So now we have three sides of our polygon. We have a little curve to finish up the shape. So we'll hold down the option key and click on top of the endpoint of this line segment coming down to create a new starting point. And then we'll close the shape by rolling over the starting point. So you get the little circle behind the pen tool, and click, hold, and drag to drag the handle or the rubber band into place. And now we have the shape of the branch. Notice that we didn't draw like this segment and this segment and this segment and then draw the bird. We're going to put this all, make this all one shape because it's just so much easier. And then through layering, we'll be able to make it look like the bird is sitting on top of it. Okay. So it's called work path right now. If we double click on that, we want it to be branch. And now it's named branch. We need a layer for it. Okay, we'll click on the last layer that we have here and say new layer, and we'll call it branch, just like the path. And now we have a layer for the branch to live on. Okay, so we'll make our path active by making a selection from the hamburger menu. Feather radius at 0, click OK, and you get your marching ants. And now it's just about making sure that you're on the layer and that you can go to Edit, Fill, Color, double click on Color, and then pick a color you want for the branch. I'm going to make the branch more of a green branch than a brown branch, something that's kind of, there we go. That's a nice tone for it. And we'll click OK, and then Edit, Fill. Oh, I'm sorry, we were on fill. Go back to color, click OK, and it fills in the branch. All right. Now we'll put a stroke on the outside of this. We'll put a black stroke on it again. We'll say Edit, Stroke, 6 pixels, black, OK, and then Command D releases the marching ants, and there we have our branch. Okay, so we have most of the polygonal images gone. Okay, we've taken care of those, and all that's left are some curved shapes that we need to make. And as we know, curved shapes are a little bit harder than polygonal shapes, but we'll get to those now. Okay, so you can no longer see your template because this is laying over the top. So we'll turn the eyeball off and just turn that off. We didn't make it disappear. We just made it go away for now so that we can work on the rest of the drawing, and we'll turn that on later. Okay. So the next piece that we'll work on, we have this nice big area here that we have of the back of the head of the bird and the back of the wing of the bird, and they appear to be all the same colors. Okay. Now, again, through layer, we could go ahead and draw, around the eyeball and come down here and draw around this rectangle, or we could and come down here and draw around this wing and so on. But we're not going to do that. We're going to make that a solid shape that will layer the other layers over the other shapes over the top of, in order to create the illusion of the indents and cuts into that shape. Okay, so let's start at the upper corner point here. Okay, and we'll make the shape of this gray area that is the back of his head and the back of his wing. Okay, pen tool, click and release to start, to plot the first point. Click and release. And then we'll come in here and we'll remember from the compass rose that you can go from west to north, but no further than one compass point at a time when making a shape. So here's kind of like west in this shape. If we were envisioning this as a big circle, west would be all the way over here and north would be all the way up here, or let's say if this was north here, west would be all the way over here. So we can go from about here to here and make that line segment and pull it in one line segment. Okay. And you want to use as few line segments as possible, but you don't want to use too few that you can't make the shape properly. Okay. So now we made a click and release, we made a click, hold, and drag to make that shape. We want to continue that shape down to here. We should be able to finish this top of the head off with just one more line segment. So we'll have two line segments to create the top of the head. We'll hold down the Option key and roll over that endpoint, click on it, and one of the handles will disappear. And then we'll come down here to this corner point, and we will click, hold, and drag, and we will make that part of the bird's head. Okay, so we've completed the back part of the bird's head. The next part of the shape is a little bit of a hump here that comes this way, then changes direction, and then changes direction again to finish the shape at the bottom. We should be able to do that in 3 line segments. So if we hold the Option key, roll over the endpoint, get rid of one set of handles, come down to about right here, hold that arc. Remember, it's click, hold, and drag to make an arc. Then hold the Option key, get rid of one of the handles, come down to here's where it's bowing this direction, and then it's going to come back the other direction again. So we're going to put that right about here, and we'll click, hold, and drag. It's very subtle. Okay, option click, and we're coming down to this corner point, and we're going to click, hold, and drag to create the tip of that wing of that bird. Okay, and again, very subtle movement. All right, not a lot of big swooping curves there. It's more subtle. All right, so let's finish that shape. Okay, and again, we're not going to come up here and then come back down and then go back up and then come over. That lends itself to making the ability to create too many mistakes. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold the option key, get rid of one set of handles. Okay, and we're going to look, and we could probably make this shape right here come all the way up to about right where the foot, the back of the leg connects at this point. So we'll click onto that. We'll click, hold, and drag in order to make that shape. Okay. And while we want to stay as true to the template as possible, we have to remember it is just a template, and sometimes templates are imperfect. So getting as close to it as you possibly can is sometimes the key. Okay. So now holding the option key, rolling over the endpoint, clicking on it to get rid of the handle, we're going to make this line come all the way up into here, even though you can't see it behind this shape. We're going to come up to about right here and make that curve because it makes it easy to create that shape. Okay. Now I don't think I pulled far enough on that shape in an effort to make this line as accurate as it should be. So in order to, if I want to alter the shape of this line segment, I come over to my arrows in my toolbox, and there's a white arrow, which allows you to change, work on points. And there's a black arrow that allows you to select entire paths. We want to use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and select just this point, and then click on the arrow and edit the shapes. There we go. Okay, so now it's a little bit more accurate. As you can see over here, it doesn't matter. This is going to be behind this part of the wing. So we can make that shape. We don't have to be very careful, actually, even. We want to option click here to get rid of the handle and come up and end up at this corner point right here. Okay. Then option click and come over to this point right here where you're seeing this line segment match up to this triangle shape. Okay, we're going to go right to the bottom of the triangle. Okay, click and release, option click, and then we're going to come up to the eyeball and we're going to put in that curved line, option click, and we're going to close the shape through the eyeball. Okay. So there we have that shape that we're dealing with now. And we're going to call that the bird's back. So instead of work path, we're going to double click on that and call it bird back. Okay, click OK. We need a layer for it, so we'll click on layer, new layer, and call it bird back. Click OK. Now we have a layer for the art to live in, and we have our third or our fourth shape. We had the branch, the two pieces of the beak, and now we have the bird back, which is a large portion of this bird. Okay, so we're going to click on the path, go to the hamburger menu, make selection, feather radius 0, get our marching ants, and then when we have our marching ants, we can make sure we're on bird back over here, and we're going to do a fill on this. Edit, fill, and let's make the back color of the bird a nice bright green. Okay, click OK. Click OK here. And we have the bright green bird. He needs a, remember though, we're putting a stroke on every one of our shapes. So now we'll go to Edit, Stroke, make sure it's at 6 pixels, color's black, click OK. And there you have that shape. We're going to do Command key and D as our shortcut to release the marching ants. All right. Now we got to be able to see behind this, okay? And we can't see right now because it's over the top of some other shapes. So we're going to turn that one off too, but we're also going to lock it up. Okay, so we can turn it on. There it is, but it is locked up. All right. So the next shape that might make sense to make is the bottom part of the face of the bird, and then we'll do the belly after that. Okay, so let's make the bottom part of the face. We'll call it bird face. We'll get our pen tool, and we'll click right here at the end point. Okay, at the corner point where this is at, and we'll click and release, and we'll go to this corner point up top and click and release, and we have a line segment there. And then we already have this drawn, this shape, so we can hold the Option key and just work our way around here until we get to this section right here where these two triangles meet. And now we do want to make this a nice line right on the template. Okay, so far we made all straight lines. We've avoided making any of these curves here. Okay, we made a polygon. So now holding the Option key, we can click on there and we can come right up and we can close that shape, and look how quick that was. Okay, instead of trying to draw all these arcs, which we know the arcs are harder, right? So why go through all that trouble? We can call this bird face. Okay, and we'll make that yellow, by the way, when we're done here. And then we'll click OK to the name bird face. Okay, and then we need a place for that bird face to live. So under layers, we'll go to new layer and call it bird face. And now we can go back over here to the path and click on it and make the selection. And remember, we're going to make that yellow. So we're going to fill it in with yellow, edit, fill, click on color, double click it, go to the yellow area in our color bar. And that's a nice bright yellow. We'll click on that and say OK. Click on OK over here, and it makes it yellow. Okay, let's put a stroke on that. Edit, stroke, 6 pixels black. OK, there we go. And then we'll hit Command D to release the marching ants. Now, if we go back and turn on the bird back again to look, see what happens? It's in front right now, but if we take that bird face and click on the layer and highlight the layer and drag that layer down, we can relayer that drawing, and now the bird face is behind the bird back. Okay, see how we just slide it and move it to its new position, and now we have a nice clean image so far going up there. All right. The next part we're going to draw is the belly of the bird. So we can leave this, but I think we should turn off the bird back because we need to see down here a little bit, or do we? bird back. Where is that? You know, no, actually we don't. Okay. We're going to make this shape next. This belly of the bird. Okay. So we're going to get our pen tool. Let's start at this corner this time. And we can make this in one, two line segments. So we're going to click here, click and release, come down to about right here, and click, hold, and drag to make the top part of the belly of that bird. Okay. Then option click on the endpoint to get rid of one of the handles. Come down here to the corner, click, hold, and drag, and finish the bottom of the belly of the bird. And there we go. We have this part completed. Okay. Do we want to draw this in here? I don't think so, right? We'll just we'll just close off the shape by option clicking here, coming into the back of the bird, coming across the face of the bird, and finishing our shape. Remember, we get the little circle behind the pen tool when we do the finished shape. So now we have this shape right here, okay? We need a place for it to live, and it's going to be behind the bird face and behind the bird back. So if we click on the branch layer and then say new layer, it'll put that new layer, which is going to be bird belly, new layer in front of the branch, but behind the face and behind the back. Okay. And we have our path over here, which we also need to double click on and call bird belly. Okay. Click OK. And then make a selection here. Get the marching ants. Okay. And maybe we'll make this a another shade of green, which is a little different than this shade and a little different than this shade. So we'll go to Edit Fill, Color, double click on Color, go to our greens. Now, if we click out here, you'll see that if I roll out into this color, we get an eyedropper, which will take us to the exact color of this green. Okay. Right here in this circle is the color of this green. If we want to make this a lighter green, we just move the circle out here a little bit and up to the top a little bit more. And I'm going to make it much lighter. I'm going to go to there and click OK. And then OK over here, and it fills it in with the lighter green. And then Edit, Stroke. We still have our black, still have our 6 pixels. Click OK. And now we have the belly of the bird behind the wing of the bird, behind the face of the bird. Okay. So all we have left is the eye of the bird and this other part of the wing and a decorative triangle here and the foot of the bird. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do the wing and this decorative triangle up in here. So let's turn off the bird belly. We'll turn off the bird face. We'll turn off the bird back. And now we can see our pieces that we need to make. We also need to release those marching ants. So I'm going to hit Command D. There we go. Okay. So let's do, these are both going to be the same color. Okay. But we're going to make them in make them out of two different shapes, right? So let's make the smaller triangle first. We'll come up here and we'll take our pen tool and we'll put it on the face marking here and we'll click and release. Then we'll come down to this corner, we'll click, hold, and drag, and we'll pull that arc all in one line segment. Option click to get rid of one of the handles. Come over to this corner, click, hold, and drag. Okay. Option click and complete the shape. There we go. So there we have the face stripe, we'll call it. We'll call it the face stripe. So we need to name the path face, stripe. Okay. And what do we need over here on the right? We need a layer. We need a place for it to live. It needs to be in front of the face, in front of the back, and in front of the belly. So if we click on the back layer, which is the very top layer, and say new layer, we can call it face stripe. Click OK, and now we have a layer for it. We can come back over to our path, go to the hamburger menu, make selection, get our marching ants, and we can fill that. We're going to make it blue. Edit fill, double click on color, go to our blues. We're going to make it a really nice bright blue. There we go. In the corner, click OK, and there's our blue filled in. And we want to put a stroke on it. Edit, stroke, 6 pixels, black, OK. And there we have our face stripe. We can release our marching ants. The next piece, we're going to stick with this blue and we're going to make this wing. Okay. Maybe the most difficult shape of the drawing, but because we don't have to match it up, it's going to be layered over the top of the belly and over the top of the back. If we're not exactly perfect, it's okay. Okay. So we're going to click on the pen tool and we're going to start on this corner point. Click and release. And we're going to make this shape down to here in one line segment. And then we're going to close it off in a second line segment. So we're coming down to here. Click, hold, and drag to make to form that first line segment. Option click on the endpoint. Then click, hold, and drag to make the bottom part of the wing. There we go. Option click. We should be able to make this shape all the way up to here in one line segment. So we'll click, hold, and drag and see how we can do. Oh, I may have overestimated my line a little bit. I didn't see that that went in at the bottom like that. So we're going to release that and then just hit Command Z, which will undo that line segment. Z means edit undo. So what we have to do is we have to make the line go from here to here because it has a little bit of a concave bowl going on, right? So we can option click on this endpoint and then go to our spot and we can put in our slightly concave arc, okay? Option click it to get rid of one of the handles. Now we can come up to this part of the curve in the wing. That's much better. And now option click on it and close the shape. There we go. That's a pretty nice representation of that wing. And then we'll call it wing. Okay. We'll make a path for it, or I'm sorry, a new layer, and we'll call that wing. Okay. We'll go make selection, 0 feather radius, click OK, and then edit fill. That same blue color will still be there. We'll double click on it. It's still at that same spot because we didn't move it. We'll click OK and OK, and then edit stroke because we didn't change that either. Click OK. And now we have the wing of the bird, and we'll release the marching ants. And we're down to the bird's foot and the bird's eye. Okay. So I'm going to go to File and hit Save. We should have been doing this all along. And when you hit Save, it'll allow us to name it. We're going to call it Bird Drawing. And and we'll save it to I'm saving it to my computer, so I'm going to click here to save to my computer. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. And then I would drag it into my folder in OneDrive when it's all completed. So bird drawing, PSD, and we want to save it, make sure that it's a Photoshop document. So format should be Photoshop, and hit save. And now we'll click OK, and it should be saved. And if anything should happen, like a crash or something, we're safe. Okay, so next to last, we have the foot of the bird. All right. Now, the foot of the bird, we don't need to draw this in down here. We can start inside the bird's body again with our pen tool, and we'll start. Let's go here. We'll start here and go behind. It'll go into the belly, and we'll come out and we'll make that first line segment, which is a straight line. Okay, straight line segment. Then Option click, and we'll come down to the where it's wrapped around the branch, and click, hold, and drag to make a curve. Option click. We can only go to about, we would never be able to make that full arc, so we're going to go halfway. I will go to here, click, hold, and drag to make that arc. Option click it, and then click, hold, and drag to the toe of the bird. Good. Option click it. A line segment that's curved coming here, click, hold, and drag. Option click. We can only come to here. Okay. Let's zoom in. Don't want to be working small. Okay. We envision this as a circle right here. We're about at south, so we can go south to west, which is about right there. Click. We'll come up to west. Good. And then we should be able to finish this off in one line segment coming to about right here. Nope. Command Z. We need two line segments. Option click on here. We'll come to about right here, and we'll get that one put in. And then we have to curve it a little bit more here, and we're good. And then we're going to close that shape. There we go. We have the shape closed. We'll zoom back out, and we'll call that path foot. Okay, because it's the foot of the bird. Click OK, and we'll go to make selection. Click OK. We have our marching ants. We need a place for it to live. So we're going to put it right in front of the branch. So we'll click on branch and say new layer, and we'll call it foot. Okay. And then we'll fill it. We'll fill it with like an orangish color as well, similar to a color in the beak. Maybe the same color as the bottom of the beak. So we'll go edit fill. Double click on color. Bring our cursor up to the beak, and you see that you have the eyedropper. Click on there. It takes you to the exact color of the beak. We'll click OK, and OK over here. And now we have the bird's foot, the same color. And we'll go edit, stroke, and oh, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong one there. We'll go edit, stroke, not fill. And it's still at 6 pixels of black. And there we have the foot. And we can go to select, deselect. And now the foot has been deselected. Okay. So let's turn on all of our layers. Here's the branch. Okay. It's behind the foot, as you can see. Then the belly is next. Okay. The belly needs to go behind the branch. There we go. Or does it? No, it does not. Okay. And then we have the bird back, There we go. Okay. And we have the bird face. And it looks like we're all done except for the eye of the bird. Okay. Well, we need to be able to see that. So we need to turn the bird face off again. And we'll turn off the bird back so that we can see the full eye. We're going to zoom in pretty close on this because this is going to take a little bit of precision. Okay. Um, Now you can see that we have our rulers at the top, our rulers at the side. We're going to make these two circles absolutely perfect on the very first try that we make them um, by using a little trick with the rulers. Okay. If we click on the move tool, which is the little plus sign at the very top of the toolbox, click on there and go into our toolbox or into our ruler. In the middle of the ruler, if we click there, hold and drag, we can bring a guide down that will sit right on the top of that white circle. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing from the side over here. We're going to bring one in from the side and just touch the edge of that circle. And now we should be able to make that white circle absolutely perfect very first time. It should sit on top of all of the layers. So we're going to make a new layer. We're going to click on the top layer and say new layer. And we're going to call it eye white. Notice we do not have a path for this. Okay. We'll click OK. We have a layer called eye white. We're going to select the elliptical marquee and we're going to line it up right on the crosshairs where the two guides are and hold shift and draw down and to the right, and that should allow us to make a perfect circle around that white area of the template. And we'll say edit fill. What color do we want it? We want it to be white. Okay. And then edit stroke and our 6 pixels. So there's our white circle for the white of the eye. Okay, we'll release the marching ants by hitting Command D. Then we're going to turn off the eye white, and we're going to do that same process that we did to the black circle. We'll use our move tool and go into the ruler and come down and pull a guide down that sits right on top of the black part of the eye and on the exact side part of the black part of the eye. And then we'll make a new layer and we'll call it black eye. Okay, again, there's no path for this, just a layer because we're using the marquee tool. So we'll select the marquee tool, line it up on the crosshairs, hold down the shift key and pull down and to the right until we get the size circle that we want. And then we'll fill it, edit, fill, and we're going to fill it with black. So there's no need to put a stroke on it afterwards. So there it is filled with black. And it's on top of the white eye. So we'll turn the white eye back on. Look what we have. We have the white eye on top of the black eye. And it's not exactly perfect. So we'll move it into place to where it is as close to perfect as we can find to get. And if it doesn't allow you to place it exactly where you want, it's probably because under view, there's something called snap and snap to. If those are turned on, it's going to snap this image to either a grid or to another shape. So we want to make sure they are not turned on, which they're not here. And we can actually go to view and go down to guides and say hide guides. We don't want to clear the guides. It must be under view show guides. There we go. Turn the guides off. Now we can go in here and try to maneuver that into position to make it perfect. There we go. And then we'll zoom out using the magnifier. Click on that, the option key, and The Option key turns it into a demagnifier, so we'll reduce the size of it. And now we'll turn on all of our layers, and we have the drawing of our bird. Okay. It does look like the eye is off by a little bit, so I'm going to click on the black and use my arrow keys to try to move it into place. And that's a whole lot better. And now we have our completed version of the bird. We'll go to File and do a File Save. And there's no need to name it again because it's already named. And there we have our very first Photoshop drawing. Okay. This is online. So reason being is it took way longer than the time that we would have in class to be able to do this, but I wanted you to complete it all in one sitting. So follow this video and do the complete drawing, and if you get stuck, don't worry. There will be plenty of time in our next class to ask questions and review and to move in, and we will finish it up. If it's not finished, if you don't have it finished, or if you're unable to complete it for the next class, we will complete it in class as you ask your questions. Okay. But you should be able to get really far on this, and I expect that most of you will be able to finish it. So give it a shot, and we'll see how it turns out. And you have your first official Photoshop illustration. So congratulations, and save it, put it into your OneDrive file because this is for a grade. Okay, that's the end of this demonstration. Thank you, and I hope this video was helpful.